In other news, President Muhammadu Buhari on Sunday laid a wreath in honor of the fallen Nigerian heroes as he presided over his last Armed Forces Remembrance Day in office as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. Well, the event, which took place at the National Arcade, Abuja, is celebrated annually to highlight contributions of soldiers and others who fought in the 1967 Civil War, which ended in January the 15th, 1970, as well as World War I and II, both to keep as one, both dead and alive, to keep Nigeria as one. Apart from laying of the wreath, President Muhammadu Buhari also conducted the traditional release of white pigeons, which connote peace for the nation. He also inspected a presidential parade of honor at the event. Other top government officials at the event included Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, Senate President Ahmed Lawan, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, amongst others. Well, joining us now is a security expert, Dr. Roy Ikhidievbie, and he's going to be speaking on the plight of retired Nigerian military personnel and what measures the government needs to take to address these issues. Good to have you on Newsday this afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.
And of course, in service of the brave men and women who have fought for our country, we know that there are challenges that they face after service. One of the many is what we want to discuss with you this afternoon, not to be presumptuous, but what are the issues that retired military personnel face right now? And is the government doing anything to address these concerns?
Well, thank you. To put the record straight, I am the current National Secretary for retired members of the Nigerian Armed Forces. I'm also the Director of Media for the Coalition of Concerned Veterans. Okay, so we have this, we are grateful to all media houses, especially Arise 2, and we have noticed your consistency in following up with our problems. We have brought this issue up many times, you know, and the veteran community actually have a lot of challenges, especially for some of us that travel out of the country, you know, and incidentally, Nigerian military personnel go out of this country and come back with awards, and they make friends with foreign military. And when both come out of service, they see differently, you know. And one of the concerns is housing, medical, because the body is worn out, you know, and the medical they finally gave after so many protests. We still need to be looking at all the gray areas, trying to put in concerns. Then you now look at policies covering veterans, and you look at those that handle issues that concerns the veterans. So those are just like a blanket opening.
Well, no, of course, yesterday at the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, we saw a widow of a fallen soldier, Cynthia Uba, where she was talking on the need for speedy processing of their spouses' insurance benefits and other entitlements. Now, when these things are delayed, what impact is it likely to have on the psyche of 7 military officers who can see, you know, what those that are retired are passing through? And, you know, how does it affect national security?
Earlier, before I joined the military, they have this thing they call mess pan. They give food. In the barrack, you are fed. Most people don't bother about cooking, you know, and your medical is top notch. So your family also, because of that, they have this grace to be protected by the government. So most people that are married to military people, your life is just within the barrack. You don't like pushing out. Now, when you lose a military personnel, his wife is thrown out of the barrack because you need the accommodation for another person. The quartermaster comes to you and tells you that they need this space, you know, and the finance in the army, it's supposed to process your payments and pay off the bereaved family and hoping that that money will help them to transit to a civilian life. So when the long span starts edging in, the embarrassment of living without the protection of your husband as a woman, the exposure of your children, if it's the male, you see them going to mix up with the bad gangs and the woman cannot do nothing. If it's the female, maybe they start being abused by other military personnel there. The wives too get these abusive responses when they go to ask for their money from serving personnel. So the issue is not only from government, it starts from serving personnel who invariably fall into the same predicament very soon.
It sounds, it's an unfortunate situation. It seems unfortunately like a vicious cycle as well. But I want to get your reaction to General Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo. Now, he recently made an appeal to the nation to fall back on retired military personnel in order to fight against this dreadful insecurity that our country has been plaguing. In light of what you have been saying, the way retired military personnel's family and widowed family members get treated, is this something that would be welcomed? Is this even a discussion amongst your quarters to going for those who haven't received a lot of their arrears to go back and serve for Nigeria? Is that possible?
Well, the Chief of Defense Staff invariably took an office that was held by someone else, I think, for a while. And he met some things on ground, which was also being propagated by the people holding that office that he met. One of the things he met on ground was that we held 6 days retreats, 3 days at a span. We took a break. We came back for another 3 days. Veteran community with General Onisakin, a one-time Chief of Defense Staff. And we looked at how to transport the Nigerian Legion, which has not been effective but was constitutionally approved for by the government, to the Veterans Federation of Nigeria. So coming into that side of office, what is the continuity on what the other Chief of Defense Staff left behind? The other day we had protests at the Ministry of Defense, and he came there and there was not much communication that we could have with our Chief of Defense Staff. Why? Because we look for people with empathy that will always be proactive in all the things that should come negatively on their desk. Before you became Chief of Defense Staff, one of it must be the exit plan and the exit life of the people that are working with you. So the Chief of Defense Staff, General Onisakin, has failed woefully to fully back up the activities that were on ground for the benefits of veterans that are also churning out every day. And you said something the other time, what is the effect on the serving troops? These officers you see now, based on their relationship with the political clout and the political influence of Nigeria in our institutions, they now prepare themselves for exit plans. So they are distracted from the necessary emotional component to look at their drivers, people that drive them, their batmen, people that iron the clothes they use to come out with, their protective orderlies that carry pistols, carry weapons, their escort teams. These are the ones that fall out into the communities, become guard somewhere, begging for food, and landlord throw their loads out of the houses, because the army housing scheme has also been enshrined in so much controversy and policy dissolutions that have not benefited veterans.
Oh, actually very sad.
Very.
Well, I'd like us to talk about ex-military men who fought during the Civil War. We know that the Military Pensions Board has said that they are not entitled to receive monthly pension because they did not serve up to the 15 years stipulated by the Pension Act at the time of their retirement. What's your take on this? How are those, veterans, how have they been surviving? What's the way forward for them?
We have the pressure groups we raised. That was one of the key points that we looked at. We were trying to ensure that they are harmonized into the system. Because after a war, everybody comes together under the green, white, green. And you are supposed to be benefiting from everything that goes to ex-servicemen in any institution that you worked. So we have done all of that, and let me tell you, there is the SDA. It's also part of this question. All the people that fought the Civil War and those that exited the military below 2017, we are not captured in the security department allowance. So definitely those that exited way back, that we have now fought for them to be paid, they are now being paid on a salary scale that was in ancient of days like 200,000, 60,000 naira for a template that says 10% of your annual salary. So after all the struggle everybody had, that president have given approval, and Ministry of Finance was delaying to pay, we fought that, hey, there's a lot going to come. You got 20,000 naira. And someone else you know who is a junior to you, you trained, is getting 600, 1 point something million. So we have a lot of phone calls coming in now that they are bedridden for high blood pressure, strokes, and all of that. And we are looking at why not give weighty concerns to those that were not in the times of this our economic crunch. The dollar and the naira relationship right now, you can't relate it to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. So this is also a challenge for those people that were cut off from pension.
This is a lot of information, and let me just move on to the next question. We were talking about the fact that there's large insecurity within the country, and it's an election period, and these times get a little bit fraught and violent, and of course we look to our armed forces to help fill in the gap when INEC cannot do everything on their own. But unfortunately, there seems to be a huge manpower shortage that we're about to enter in the police force. From the, I believe, the 1st of February till the March 15th, there are large amounts of retirements. In fact, the Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, is supposed to have retired around that time as well. That falls within the election period. All hands need to be on deck, obviously, because of the situation that we're in now. But with the situation where we have 12 commissioners of police retiring within this time period, 16 other assistant inspector generals, and 30 assistant commissioners of police. Now, these are large numbers of individuals who are going to be retiring, and that's not even to count those who are voluntarily leaving the service. Is this a cause for concern? Is this something that maybe has happened before that you are aware of? And how can it be mitigated in order to make sure that the country is safe, or the country seems safe, and individuals feel safe to carry out their civic responsibilities during,
Okay,
elections?
Thank you very much. You see, many years ago, we wrote letters to some state governors, even the Governors Forum, believing that any letter you drop in the Governors Forum will spread out to all the governors. We are saying this, NYSC people you use, these are children. They just come out from a struggle of trying to read and trying to go on strike, and trying to manage lecturer strike, and trying to manage cultism, and trying to manage situations where their parents don't have money because of the economic situation to pay for them. These are just young people that are passing through those matured stages, which in those days, these same parents that are in government now were fed in schools. Now you put these children, post them to hinterlands to go and manage an insecurity situation, a high boiling situation like an election, and put their life at risk. Every state governor can generate a list of the people that left the state to join any agency. The Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the police. And you can generate this database and build a relationship with them. You can use them during such periods to be neutral, because our training indicates and mandates that you are neutral. you know, and you know, you're under pension, you are taking pension. So you must also propagate that neutrality. Let the best candidate win. Every state should harmonize their ex-servicemen together, not under the legion, because that structure is faulty. They must harmonize it under the existing CAC registered bodies that are also recognized by Ministry of Defense, recognized by Ministry Pension Board. You know, there you can get a database that is alive and call people of different and diverse training and skills to help you manage the insecurity of a place where they grew up from and where they are indigenous of.
Okay. Now, abroad, at least in the UK, in the US, in the Western world, we know that retired military personnel, you know, known as veterans, they are highly honored by the government, by citizens, organizations, you know, you name it. But that's not the case here. So how do we improve, shall I say, military-civilian relationship? Because I think there's some level of distrust and suspicion, especially from the civilians. I cannot speak for the military, I can only speak for the civilians. So how do we improve that relationship so much that we'll begin to honor, to respect, you know, our veterans?
You know, if a parent does not honor and respect their children, when the children goes out in the streets, they are treated like that. You know, in the Ministry of Defense, there is the Veterans Federation, there's a defense body that handles veterans affairs. In the Military Pension Board, it's supposed to also handle veterans affairs. The Nigerian Legion that was created also supposed to handle veteran affairs. But you will be surprised to see that in all of those offices, the number of veterans that hold decision-making positions is very little. And these positions are where you are supposed to take decision. If I am taking a decision in the Veterans Affairs Department of the Ministry of Defense, most of the budget there would be to enhance community relationship and community cohesion with veteran people. Because when I leave the military and I go to the civilian enclave, I'm seen as an outsider first. You know, and I cannot build that rapport if my own agency cannot come and make it a relationship system where you welcome them back. I told people, I said, every state gives letter of identification to every citizen of a state before you join the military. Your local government will give you a letter to show that you are from this place and you are a Nigerian. When you leave service, your state is supposed to give you a certificate of return. That helps you to come back in a ceremony where people say, oh, I know him. He left in so and so when he was young. You know, so when you come back like that, you relate with the community. And as you are coming back with your skills and your expertise, you will look for areas where it is necessary and needed. Someone called me the other day that they need to train people from their state, that the state want to send for recruitment into the armed forces. They need to train the youths to know what they would expect. I asked them, is there no relationship with your government, your governor, and the veteran community in your state? There was none. You know, so these are things that are vital, which you have just mentioned. The Military Pension Board, the Veterans Affairs Department, and all other bodies that handle veteran issues in the Ministry of Defense should have veterans at key offices. In the Ministry of Defense, if you look at the PAMSEC, Dr. Abubakar Kana, you will think he's a veteran. He's so passionate about this thing. He goes with us, leaves his desk, follows us to Ministry of Finance, to Ministry Pension Board, just to try to fine-tune all the gray areas. You know, so veterans must handle their affairs, sit at the desk, and administrate.
Does it worry you that this subject has not come up in any of the campaign discussions as it is an election season? None of the parties seem to be discussing veterans affairs. Is this a worry for you?
It's not. We are not surprised. Let me tell you why we are not surprised. 2015, when this government was coming on board, the veteran community were happy. Because before then, you know, there was a lot of protests, a lot of inconsistencies. So we now have the Minister of Defense, veteran, the President, a veteran, the National Security Advisor, a veteran. And all of our protests, even the minimum wage disparity protests, they got an alert. So why will they sit in their comfort zone, look at us on the screen, look through their windows, drive by, and see us on the street protesting, and you get an alert for it? What kind of mindset is that? You know, so we are not surprised that over these 8 years, it has been a drag and give situation, because there is no empathy left in such people to see their own community dying every day. Their drivers, their batmen, even those that were senior to me, they still call some of us that God has given grace to say, please, I cannot get my drugs. It's not available in the hospital. Because if you go there, they write 6 drugs for you. Arthritis, liver, and all that are not covered. You know, even the glasses, you need to pay some money to get a good one. For a veteran that's supposed to be a sniper, be in hazy conditions, your kidney, your liver is not covered by your health care. And these same people are seated in key decision-making positions in a government for 8 years. And the outcome was still to pay an SDA. We don't know how many tranches. They paid 2 tranches. And people are getting less than 20,000-30,000 naira. You have paid me 2 tranches for a policy that is supposed to debar me from my skills and empower me to start a new lifestyle. So when we look at those that are in authority and those that are also veteran, that get alternative income from the government and taxes, that veterans pay taxes, my companies pay taxes, okay? I have a tax clearance, so it is from it that you travel anywhere you are going to for your medicals or whatever that I cannot get as a veteran.
Dr. Roy, Ikhidievbie, this is really heartbreaking. We do hope that those in authority, that they are listening and that they will act on it. We thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.